Let's do a quick comparison between project maps, mind maps and concept maps in Nvivo. These three kind of maps can be compared and contrasted on certain criteria like what purpose they serve, what is their location or position on a priori versus posterior assumptions. Third, what is their coding utility? Since we spend maximum time coding our qualitative data, so what is the relationship linkage between these three kind of maps and the codes that we write? And finally, where do they stand on this inductive versus deductive continuum of theory building? This is going to be very helpful when you work on thematic analysis or grounded theory. So purpose, you tell me what's the purpose of project maps? Simply to visualize relationships among the project elements. When it comes to mind maps, they are basically a tool to brainstorm, hypothesize about your research project, where exactly themes or concepts you expect to be linked to each other. And concept maps, they combine the element of both mind map and project map. You can brainstorm as well as you can see the project level relationship. You can also bring new element and explore the unexplored arenas. Posterior versus a priori continuum. Now what a priori basically means? An a priori theory is basically which is not based on experience, actual experience. It is based on some presupposed hypothesis or some pre-experiential thing. I hope you are getting the point. So far you have not started coding your data, but this is what your hypothesis is without looking at the real data. In contrast to this, a posterior assumption or model or a posteriori, as it is called, is something which is based on experiences. And when you say experiences, it means it is based on actual data. By experiences doesn't mean any subjective experience. It's basically based on data. So as far as project maps are concerned, they are posterior units. They are based on data. They show you the relationship between project items or project elements. But mind maps are a priori units. So in this case, you are just brainstorming and you have not still started with your actual data. Concept maps, as you understand, they combine the element of both a priori as well as posterior method. What about coding utility? So if you are using project maps, then it contains basically project elements. You cannot convert them into code. But when you create mind maps, then in that case you can convert your mind map into codes. So what actually you are doing in case of mind maps, you are just brainstorming about your possible codes or themes. You are developing some sort of linkage between them, and Nvivo gives you option to convert these elements into codes, which you can later use for the coding purposes. So basically in case of mind maps, you are writing labels, you are generating labels, you are developing linkage between the labels. And an additional facility that you have here is that you can convert these labels into codes, and when you actually code, you can just use these labels. You need not create labels during the coding process. And what is coding utility of concept maps? It may help you in generating new codes because you are hypothesizing maybe an unexplored arena by bringing new elements, so that will basically give rise to new codes. Inductive versus deductive approach. So inductive approach, basically a data-driven approach in which you begin from data and move toward a general theoretical framework. It's an instance of moving from particular instances to a general framework. So that's an inductive approach. Deductive approach, in contrast to this, is a theory development method in which you begin from a theoretical framework and then substantiate the existing instances based on established theory. For instance, if you look at the laws of gravitation, how exactly you prove it? There are two ways to looking at this problem. One, you can look at various bodies, and if you observe that they are falling on the ground, you can question that how come body A or B or C all are falling on the ground. So there must be some force. So you are moving from particular instances, examples, to a general framework, that is force. In contrast to this, suppose you have this hypothesis that there is some force which is attracting all the freely falling bodies toward the ground. So in that case, you can demonstrate that force by throwing any object, say pen or ball or something, and prove that, see, it will fall on the ground. So if you think about project maps, mind maps and concept maps, where do they stand on inductive versus deductive continuum? Like a priori versus posterior continuum, project maps basically work at inductive level. They give you the entire skeleton of your project. You get to know all the elements, whichever elements in which you are interested. In contrast to this, mind maps, they work at the deductive level, where you begin with a priori assumption and you are yet to test those assumptions. And concept maps, as you know, they combine the elements of both inductive or deductive approach, or project map versus mind maps. So I hope this differentiation helps you being even more clear about when to use project maps, when to use mind maps, and when to use concept maps. So I hope after this discussion you are fully ready to go ahead with creating your own mind map, project map or concept map. That we will do next in the coming videos.